Hi, Hans. Thank you so much for joining us today at Eber.
Thank you so much for having me, Gauri.
Okay, great to have you. So let's get right into it. So you are obviously running a restaurant, Tiki Toke, one of the popular restaurants in Kuala Lumpur. And Malaysia right now is in the midst of our third lockdown. So it's MCO 3.0. How has this affected you as a restaurant owner?
It has been really bad. I have to be very honest, because being in Damansara Heights, my rental is quite high. And when you're running a business like Tiki Toke, which caters to generally the middle to upper end income people, you always need to have good amount of people to support the business, So your overheads are high, you can't afford to have one or two people, and you just can't afford to also have inexperienced people. You need to have some amount of inexperienced people to scale them and grow them part of the organization, but you also need top good people, which don't generally come very cheap. But when times are hit like this, and you can't just throw them out, you can't just suddenly retrench them. They also have bills to pay, families to feed. So what I have done though is that I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. Either I was too comfortable, but as you mentioned, we are in our third MCO, In the first MCO, I'll just give some numbers,
Sure.
I mean, it's not fantastic. It's a bit embarrassing. But we were not making anything more than about 1,000 ringgit per day, which is very, very low. So you make 1,000 ringgit a day, 1,000 plus ringgit a day from March. The lockdown started on March 18 till the May the 3rd, the first MCO. So you were like, man, that was tough, but okay lah. We went through the second lockdown in January the 10th, I believe, to February the 8th, somewhere around there, 1 month period. That time revenue dropped to about 500 bucks on an average per day. Which if you take by 30 days, it cannot even cover your rent. Rental in Damansara Heights is very expensive. And, staff and all of that. At about March and April, I also felt vaccinations was not scaled up fast enough. And I already told my team, even in Hans Media, hey, we should prepare. There may be another lockdown. Fair enough, I don't like to be right about these kind of things of predicting a lockdown, but it did happen again. And this time, when it happened, it started off on, what was it, May the 7th in KL. Selangor was a day or two earlier than us. Right. So when we first heard it was only Selangor, we were rejoicing, like, all right, everybody got to come to KL. And I posted that up on social media. No problem. Don't worry about Selangor. KL is fine. And one day later, fucked up, we also got screwed,
I think I remember that post.
Okay. So May 7th, it hit. It only took me 2 days to realize how bad it was. We were making about 100 to 200 ringgit per day, and I already called Carrie immediately, the chef, and I said, hey, something has to happen, because, and then I just started reading more articles, and it made sense. In the first round, although there was a lockdown, there was moratorium, there was cash given out to people. So people who didn't have an income had a source of income, right? The government was giving 800 or 1,200 if you were a Malaysian with a certain pay bracket. So there was money still. In January, there was no moratorium given. There was no money given. So you could see that now the decline is happening, whereby in this MCO, most likely people are really on their bare necessities left, like that's all the cash that they have. And if that's all they have, they're not going to buy a $35 pizza from Tiki Toke. I have to be honest about it. Our price point for our food is not conducive for delivery as well. People do take it if they enjoy it, but you generally pay for Tiki Toke for the ambience, for the service, the environment, the people you see there, so it's all of that then worth it to come to Tiki Toke and pay the money. But if you're just going to get it in a plastic and eat it at home, I think there are better options,
Right.
And so then I started seeing, hey, what do we do? And one of it is sometimes as a businessman, you got to put aside some ego, lah, you know. I was discussing this with my team, and, you know, I said, hey, you know, I think I want to open up a stall. And one of the things was like, Hans, we just won a Tatler Award, you know. It's so prestigious, you know.
Right.
Why do you want to go down and sell on the street? So I think if there's one thing that I realized is that the reason sometimes people or businessmen or entrepreneurs don't pivot is purely down to how they are going to be judged and looked at. You know, I just picked up a Tatler literally a month or two ago. It is not easy to decide that once you are that high and atas, that you want to go and sell on the street, you know. But I looked at the numbers and I said, this doesn't make sense. I told my team, look, we all have to take a reduction in salary, which they already agreed from the first MCO to second MCO, you know. But I said, rather than taking a reduction salary and just sitting at home because we don't have much orders, how about I set up a stall? I pay a couple of thousand ringgit. I go and buy the tents, I buy the tables, I buy all of this. And I started seeing that, you know, Malaysians also were looking for that something a little bit more affordable, right? Times are bad. We need to adjust. We need to adjust what we eat and what we buy. So I was like, okay, you know, let me do that. And so we spent about 2-3 weeks. The first, out of the 3 weeks it took us to launch, 2 weeks was on ego. No, we shouldn't be doing this. It's not good for our brand. It's not going to look good, you know. And it's all of that, you know. Even your team members are like, I don't want to stand on the side of the road, you know.
I see. Okay.
So it was actually, once you have an idea as an entrepreneur, the hardest thing is to instill it into the team and for them to trust your vision and believe in you, and not that they are thinking this guy has gone nuts, you know. Suddenly, what is this guy on about? Like, why is he opening up a stall, you know? So yeah, you know, I kickstarted it, took some time. We did some R&D. We needed to get the costing right. And I would say one thing that I've learned, we've just launched it about 10 days, almost 2 weeks now, and response has been quite good, you know. But one thing I would say is I really hats off to those people for all of these years who have been selling food by the side of the street. You know, there are so many factors, wind, things like that. When you're cooking in our kitchen, we have everything ready, you know. It's a central area where you have no factors that can come in, you know, no sudden gushes of wind, which is if you're cooking your food, it already, the timing of cooking can be off, you know. So sometimes you look at these people and you're like, oh, we cook in a high-end kitchen, restaurant, and you don't realize the physics, the science to cook on the street. You have hot weather. Recently, it's been very hot certain part of the day, and suddenly it rains. You have to be smart enough to know that, hey, you got to put away the food under ice, cold. You know, in our kitchen, we've got freezers, we've got chillers, we have no other thing that manipulates the environment, you know. So all of these people who have been selling in pasar malams and all of that, it's really not easy. It looks easy, but it takes a lot of brain to think, eh, sudah nak dapat panas sekarang, we have to take things inside, you know. Put this a little bit. So we are learning, you know, we are learning. I have been buying street food for the longest time, right? So I got a lot of my abang John burger from Uptown. I've been buying burger from him since I was 18, 19 years old, 20 years ago. So, you know, I did tell him, you know, abang, susah, how did you set up? You know, macam mana you keep your vegetables and all of that. So I've known a few people in the Taman Tun Pasar Malam, which I've been going to since I was young. I buy their keropok leko, I buy all of that. So I have got friends who do this, traders. So I go to them and I just started talking to them while the team was trying to convince me, you are mad and don't do this. I was actually going a bit more to the ground and asking these people, how do you get your food here? How do you keep your food not going bad? You know, the cuaca banyak panas, macam mana makan tak jadi basi, you know. So it's all of that, understanding all of that, and then speaking to the team. But of course, they also were brilliant. You know, they started doing their own research and came and told me, you know, we need to change the oil X amount of times. So yeah, tough, but what needs to be done needs to be done.